Namm 2024, University of California, KUCR, here at the Eventide booth, and we're speaking with Patrick Flores of Eventide. Patrick, we've interviewed you before, as you reminded me, but I think the reason that we want to keep talking to Eventide is because the company is so advanced. It's pretty much on the cutting edge, universally appreciated for the sonic quality and the sophistication. And I'd like to let's refresh the viewers as to the history of Eventide, as I go back to using an Eventide rack-mounted product, the
H910.
Yeah, so it was. Yeah, we were using it in a project in 1987.
Wow.
Yeah.
H3000.
No, the 3000's much more current.
Yeah.
Much more current. But tell us about the history of the company.
Sure, yeah. So Eventide's been around for about a little bit over 50 years. And all that DSP knowledge we pumped into products like the H3000, H9000, which we have over there. And then we were really kind of diving into the guitar market as to the past couple decades, right? So we have over here the H90, which is our flagship effects processor. Just came out last year, but we're still pumping out new sounds in there. So right now we have a polyphonic synthesizer that's brand new. You can basically turn your guitar into a whole synth without needing any MIDI pickups. It's all going to track it instantaneously. And on top of that, we also just released for Namm iPad compatibility with it, so you can wirelessly connect to your H90 via iPad and control any parameters you want.
So with these that are intended for the guitar market, they really, though, you can still use them in a studio because the quality is completely there. Isn't that correct?
Yeah, so we're making studio quality pedals, right? So a lot of people actually use this as an insert in their like patch bay or something like that, and it's 4 in, 4 out. So you can actually send 2 separate stereo outputs and have one algorithm on each of them if you'd like, or have, one through. It's super flexible, but to answer your question, yeah, people use this on the studio or front of house all the time.
So can you talk about the difference between the H9 pedal and the H90? So I have an H9, so I pretty well know about it, but I thought I really don't even need more, but you're giving more with the H90, I would assume.
Sure. Yeah, honestly, the most simple way of looking at it is it's 2 H9s in one box, right? But there's a lot more different with it. Again, like I said, the quad in, quad out lets you put inserts into your signal chain. So if you have another pedal that you like, you can insert that between your 2 effects. There's also true spillover on this thing, as well as a new screen. And all the newer algorithms that we're releasing is only going to be available on the H90 and the H9000 because we're on ARM processors on this thing now, as opposed to Motorola.
So, could we move over to the other pedals here? We're going to walk over here. So, Patrick, is it the case that these wonderful looking pedals are also incorporated in this? Is everything here in the H90?
Yeah, for the most part. Like most of these sounds are stuff you can get on the H90. This actually is the most different out of all these other pedals. This one's called the Riptide. It's one of my designs. It's a dual overdrive and a dual univibe in one box. So you can pretty much get that like instant Jimi Hendrix or instant Pink Floyd tone. The overdrive is a classic transparent overdrive, and the univibe is a classic Shin-A emulation of a univibe. We got this really rad Shin-A unit and pretty much try to do our best to copy the sound from input to output. So it's the true stereo version of that univibe.
Now you just said that this was one of your designs. I did not realize that you were a designer. What is the design process that you undertake as an Eventide? Because the standard is very high and the expectations are very high. So how do you go about designing a product for Eventide?
Sure. Yeah, so designing this product was really simple. Actually, simple is sort of a good word because I didn't do any of the hard stuff. We have a brilliant engineer named Jacob Garrick who worked on the code for this stuff, and we sat down together pretty much every day just tweaking the sound of this thing. All I did was play guitar and tell him no, this needs to be more bouncy, this needs to be more bitey. I'm a guitar player first, and you know, so I'm describing these things to him with guitar player adjectives, and that's basically how it went down. We just sat down in front of 2 stereo amps and started tweaking like sounds that are available to us.
You bring up a good point. You're working with a person who does coding, so this is all software, right? So does that mean that it's modifiable, updatable? Can you update the firmware, or is this intended as a final product?
For the most part, this is intended as a final product. We wanted to you could connect this to a control software, and if there's any updates available, you could do that. But we designed this one specifically to just be on your board without needing to plug in. There's no second level of parameters. It's simple and easy to use. It's a guitar player's guitar pedal.
So this is a market that you've gone into a number of years ago, the guitar market, which also serves people who want studio quality effects and use them in studios. But I go back to rack-mounted studio Eventide gear, and I'm hoping Eventide is still making those products.
Yeah, let me show you something over here, actually.
Let's walk on over here. Okay, what do we got here? This looks like the H9000 looks wonderful, and then let's go, you take it.
Yeah, so speaking of our old rack mount products, we will never forget our legacy. We're a legacy company, right? So the H9000 is basically the H3000 is like in every single studio. There's like having 16 H3000s in one box. It has 132 channels of I/O, so this is sort of like our flagship modern rack mount effects processor. Meanwhile, for this Namm, we just released the reissue of our Omnipressor. That's talking about the H910 era, right? So this is just about 50 years old, and yeah, it's reissued now. It's a true analog compressor that has the expansion. It's also the first compressor ever back in the day when we built it to introduce side chaining.
So this is actually a reissue, original circuitry, the reproduced completely.
Yes, sir.
And is it a single channel, or is it a stereo?
It is a single channel, but there's a link in the back, so if you end up getting 2 of them, you could link it into a stereo Omnipressor.
So what this is the reason that you would bring this back is because it has a certain character, a certain desirability, a certain presence. Could you describe how it might affect the audio in a pleasing way?
Sure. Yeah, so we brought it back because honestly we saw demand in the market. We kept seeing the secondhand market like release old school Omnipressors for kind of ridiculous amounts of money that we were like, well, if people really want that, we'll just make it again and then make it affordable so they can get it. Since this thing will, I mean, imagine like those like really crushed drums. You can obliterate your drums with these. But the really cool thing about it is it has this thing called expansion, reverse compression basically, which makes your quiet signals loud and your loud signals quiet. Like people like The Who ended up using that to sort of recreate like reverse cymbal sounds, right? Because your transient hit will duck, and then out of nowhere, as quiet it goes, it starts to raise the volume. So it sounds almost reversed.
Patrick, you mentioned affordability, which brings up the topic of price point. What is the price point on the H90, and then what is the price point of this reissued product here, and then 16 H3000s, which isn't enough. That's not. What prices are we talking about here?
Right on. So starting with the H90, that is going for $899. That's our flagship effects pedal, and we're pumping out new algorithms on that thing constantly for free right now to all H90 users. The Riptide that I showed you is $299.
Thanks for mentioning that.
No worries, that's $299. Our flagship effects processor, a lot of movie studios use this one. It's our most expensive unit, going for about $8,000 with tons of I/O in the back. And then the Omnipressor, you'll see in the used market for like $6,000, $8,000, just about, but we're selling it for $2,000.
Oh, okay. That is a good price. Well, thank you very much for talking to us. We've been speaking with Patrick Flores of Eventide here at Namm, Anaheim Convention Center, Namm 2024.